In 2007, my husband died, and over a 10-year period of time, we accumulated $75,000 worth of debt between medical bills and having people taking care of him, and just living. And my husband passed away, and here I was with a big debt and not really knowing what to do. But I knew that I needed to tithe. So I went to pastor and I asked him, because, most of us think about tithing, we think about the money that we have in our hand. And really, tithing's not about the money we have in your hand. It's about the money that God has given you. And so when I had the discussion with Pastor Steve, he said, well, it's up to you whether you want to tithe on your gross or your net. And I said, okay. And I went home and I thought about it. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to tithe on my gross. So I wrote that first check, and that first check probably was undaunting to write. But what I realized at the end of the month was I had money in my bank account. And so I really wasn't missing anything. And what I learned during this time was that God is a great provider. He filled my cup more than overflowing. So fast forward to 3 years later, debt-free, I had opportunity to bless other people, as well as go on and fulfill some dreams that I had, to go on to mission trips and to provide support for missionaries who came through. So God took care of it all. And I like to think about this story as something that I read in Scripture in 2 Kings chapter 4. And it was about the woman who was a widow, and her two sons, she was going to lose her two sons. Someone came and said they were going to take her two sons to pay the debt. And she went to the prophet Elisha and said, what do I do? And he said to her, what do you have? And she said, I have a flask of olive oil and a jar. And he told her to get as many jars as she could get and to start pouring the oil. And the oil was poured, one jar after the other jar after the other jar. And at the end, she stopped. She didn't have any more jars. And she looked at him and she said, what do I do now? And he says, well, you sell all this oil, you pay all the debt, and you will have enough for you and your sons to live on. So what I've learned is that I always have another jar. I'm Lesley Schaefer, and I'm destined for victory.